Hey, wrestling fans! Welcome to episode 5 of Smack Talk here at Smark Out Moment. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Today, just Michael Burhan, but how you doing today, Mike?
Good. Um, Despite the I'm time difference. I'm pretty good today.
I think we're all kind of tired after all that tryptophan from yesterday. Well, maybe not you because of the whole, UK thing, but that just shows how tired I am. Today we're going to talk about just mainly a couple little things here, mostly sort of little Survivor Series recap. Start dipping into some R-Truth suspension, a couple little things about It Begins 2012, and even our little Daniel Bryan cashing in Money in the Bank. Aw,
Woohoo!
poor guy. So let's just start it off with Survivor Series. Run down the card real quick. We had the first match, Dolph Ziggler versus John Morrison.
Classic.
Ziggler winning by pinfall. Good match, I thought. Good start to the pay-per-view. Uh, I had said before I thought that Ryder should have gotten the title shot, but I mean, clearly everybody thought that because Madison Square Garden was going nuts for Ryder,
Yeah, of course. They were sort of like the Rider Smarks in on MSG.
and it was great that they had him come out afterward. Now everybody, of course, thought that he was going to be getting a title shot when he came out, so everybody was disappointed when it was just, oh, let's just have him go beat down Ziggler and that's it. But I did like the match. I really didn't understand how once again they had Morrison as kind of a big deal. I mean, I'm a big fan of Morrison and everything, but we just keep constantly hearing that he's leaving WWE, and they just started pushing him towards the end of it. Why didn't they do this 5 months ago when it mattered and he could have stayed? It's ridiculous to me.
I think he had his mind set, from what I'm hearing. He was going to leave anyway now that Melina was gone, and because I think she was the only thing that was keeping him there. And he's going to try his talents at acting. So we'll see how that goes.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
they definitely are saying that he's leaving. I think it's what Monday's his last day.
Yeah, they're going to probably job him out to somebody. Maybe use him to get someone over.
That's what they really
Uh,
should do. I mean, as much as some people kind of disagree with that. I always think if somebody's leaving the company, you should have them go out losing. Well, unless they're retiring, then it's a different story. But
or the Hulk Hogan who likes to set out his contract until he goes to WCW. Good old days.
well, supposedly he's going to TNA as a package deal with Molina, and he's going to be like the star of their X division, which is like, I mean, every time TNA gets a new person, they become the star of something, and then within 5 months they fall by the wayside and nobody cares anymore.
They need to
But
get their own like divisions right first, to tell you the truth, before they even like focus on anybody. Because the company itself is in shambles. They've got a mid card title that's basically being used as comedy jobber fodder. The X Division title doesn't really matter. It's been used in a feud between some little kid with a ball and Kid Cash and Austin Aries, and then you got the world title that's been booked into feuds that are supposed to last for about 6 to 7 months, condensed into a week. So they're not really should be focusing on Jomo. And truthfully, I don't think he would want to go there anyway because I think he wants to keep the door open to WWE just in case he peaks any interest there. But I think he's kind of burnt his bridges like with them anyway because they're looking to just unload him. They don't really want him there anymore because of his issues. Well, basically because of the damage that Melina did to his career. The fact that he just let her sleep around and do whatever the heck she wanted didn't really help him much.
plus, he's apparently been killed off in the latest Z True Long Island story. Have you seen that yet?
I have not seen that yet. I was gonna go and watch that, but I was waiting for him to actually upload that.
What's up right now? Anybody who hasn't seen that, check it out. There is a very funny thing with Jomo out there in that video.
Or
I won't
Zach's dad.
exactly. Um, so that takes care of the Morrison Ziggler match. Then we went to Divas Championship Lumberjill match. Beth Phoenix beating Eve Torres. Crap match. I
Nothing
thought the
special.
last move was good, but I mean, one move doesn't save a whole match.
Yeah, it was you expected it to be what it was really, Beth overpowering her and practically destroying her throughout the whole match. You didn't really expect anything more or less about it. From what because I didn't really pay attention to most of the match, to tell you the truth. Um,
It's justified.
yeah, it was just one of those things where the Lumberjills didn't get involved, so you expecting them to like beat each other up, which that didn't happen. And the fact that Natalie, helped to get the win, and that was it. And she didn't really need that help. I think they're trying to establish the two as like old school heels, but it doesn't really work. It just makes you look at it and think, okay, this is what it is. And until Karma gets inserted into a feud, there's not really going to be any joy out of the Divas division because they haven't got anybody in there who can sort of shine for the title yet. There's no one who'll match Beth.
You
Um,
mean you're not looking forward to the Beth Phoenix versus Kaitlyn feud?
oh God, isn't Kaitlyn turning heel or something because of what
It
happened on
looks like they're
SmackDown?
trying, but they're just. It looks like they have uh, no faith in this angle from the start, and they're just kind of stalling until they have to do it, which they don't have to do it in the first place anyway, because nobody gives a shit about the Caitlyn AJ partnership. So it's not like we're losing anything. Like when it's a different story when you've got an actual tag team breaking up and people are like, "Oh man, they were such a good tag team together." Half the people that watch, well, not as many people watch SmackDown as Raw, and then there's a huge drop from the SmackDown viewers from NXT. So most people don't even know who Caitlyn is, let alone whether or not she's a face. And oh, she's friends with this other one that we don't really know that much. And
The issue they had with
uh,
Kaitlyn is they buried her too much. It's a cause of concern really. She won the NXT thing. She was supposed to get a Divas title match, and they ended up because a few people got rubbed the wrong way backstage. They just buried the crap out of her, kept her off TV. The girl had no relevance, and then just ended up using her as jobber fodder. Why are you going to care about her? No one's really going to care about some girl with blonde highlights who looks like a bodybuilder, who has a rather appealing look, but she's just a dime a dozen in a division where it's just nothing really matters at the moment. The title doesn't mean a thing, um, and there's not really. You've got like two talented wrestlers at the whole roster.
and they're friends.
Exactly. And, I know they're going to break them up and have Natty go after the belt, but it doesn't really help what's going on at the moment because you've just got all these. It's like Kelly, yeah, she can probably hold one or two little matches together. Alicia Fox is just terrible. I don't even understand why she's next in line. I'd rather see AJ because it's something different
Well, you know what?
rather than.
Speaking of things that are a complete waste of time, the next thing that happened in Survivor Series is something that a lot of people seem to like, and I completely disagree with. The Rock cutting that, what was it, like an 8 minute promo, and we really, like, did we have to sit there and listen to him sing New York and have him talk about the lady parts thing again? And I mean, I laughed when he was talking about his bad haircut and everything, but then it was like 3 minutes into this promo, I really don't give a shit anymore. I know you're wrestling later on, and you're not even promoting the match later on. You're promoting yourself. You're talking about your catchphrases, and that's it. So I got really annoyed with that. That's exactly the reason why I stopped watching back in 2000 because it was just bullshit like this over and over and over again. If they start doing it, ugh.
Yeah, it's that they've taken the entire focus of the pay per view and put it on the Rock's shoulders. And I kind of disagree because JR was even saying, "Oh, it's good for business. It's good for business." Yeah, but for the long term, it doesn't really help everybody else on the roster. I agree totally with what Punk said that the guy just went in there with a rather narcissistic view of himself, cut all these god awful promos about how great he is, in an attempt to, give people the rock, so to speak. And it's just made everybody else look bad. It's like Awesome Truth are supposed to be this big heel tag team, and you're not focusing on that. You're focusing on this guy cutting some more about Cena has a vagina promos, and it does nothing to help elevate their feud. It does nothing to help anybody else's feud. It's like, I could literally sit there, and if I could book feuds like that rather easily and just say, oh, okay, we'll have DiBiase versus Rhodes, and have DiBiase call Rhodes a girl and say his mum sucks boobs or something, just to have this feud go on. That's how childish it is,
Vince
Just
Russo is going to listen to this and be like, "Oh my god, brilliant!"
have Lagana write it down. But this is the thing: you can't book a pay-per-view on one guy and
Mhm.
hope it sells.
Right. I mean,
Yes,
I'm sure that the buy rate's going to be fine, but when what you were saying, it's not going to help the whole company in the long run. It's going to give them a somewhat decent buy rate for Survivor Series, and then it might spark a little bit more interest into WrestleMania. But I think for the most part, WrestleMania was built from the start, and they really didn't need to add anything more to it. So this is just kind of a moot point by now.
they need to do something to make it interesting. And Survivor Series for me, I went in to the pay-per-view with very low expectations, especially for the main event, and I came out feeling okay. This was just a bog standard pay-per-view. It was nothing special. It had no high regard. It had no energy. The best match out of the entire pay-per-view for me was Ziggler versus Morrison. That seemed more main event
Yeah.
than the main event.
And that's a testament of how Ziggler has been for over a year now.
Yeah, dude's awesome. The fact is, Vince needs to pull the trigger on him at some point and have him feud for the world title because he's just so damn over. He's the best. He does everything what a heel should do. He makes the face look good. He builds the face up. Do you think Ryder would be getting the attention that he's getting just based solely on his YouTube show? No, because Ziggler's getting him over.
Mhm.
Ziggler's doing his damn job. The fact that everybody's like piping for Ryder and panning for this guy, and Ziggler's just giving them all this sort of spew and hatred about that Ryder's never going to have his title. It makes that belt seem more and more prominent. It has so much stock in it at the moment.
Right.
And the fact is, imagine if he's doing this with the US title, what he could do with the world title.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of people always equate him to Mr. Perfect, and I think it's
Oh,
just because of the I am perfection in the theme, and a lot of people
no,
just
he's
get caught
10
up
times
on
better than
little
perfect. He
things like
speaks
that.
volumes compared to perfect. Hennig had his thing, Hennig had his niche. But when you look at a guy like Ziggler, Ziggler can go on the mic and Ziggler can go in the ring. Hennig could semi go in the ring, but he was more prominent on the mic.
Well, see, I've always been a big fan of Perfect, but I never really connect Perfect and Ziggler together. To me, Ziggler's his own guy, and he's doing it just as well. I mean, I want Ziggler to be one of those guys that they look at as a main eventer in the future because he really has gotten to the point where he is a main eventer. They just haven't, like you said, they haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah,
And
they got to give him a few more main event matches.
especially by making him the first person eliminated in the elimination match. I don't know why they necessarily chose to do that, unless it was just to give him a little bit of a break from wrestling the other match or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was basically just to give him a bit of a break. And just give him something to brag about. Oh, I wrestled two matches again. I would have rather had him last the distance, but I didn't mind that match. To tell you the truth, I think it did what it was supposed to do, which was get the new batch of heels over.
There's a
You
couple
know,
things in it that bothered me though, and it might be that way simply because of the Sin Cara thing. And if anybody is unaware, Sin Cara actually is injured. He
March fast.
what was it? He ruptured his patella tendon or something like that. I'm not a physiologist. I don't remember exactly
It
what
was
they said.
something in his ankle, wasn't it? Was it like C4 or something like that? Because
I don't have a clue. Something's messed up. I don't know, but he screwed it up when he was actually jumping out of the ring, and that's why that whole thing was a complete botch. I looked at it on the pay per view, and I thought that they were saying that he injured himself on the fall, and that clearly didn't seem like it was that much of a fall to me. So it clears it up a lot that the problem was when he was jumping off. Now I don't know what the plans were with Sin Cara in the match. They all completely went out the window once he was injured, and you could tell that they were kind of doing like a hard reset and figuring out what was going on. I naturally assumed that he was supposed to eliminate Hunico or something like that, but the thing that bothered me about this match, and it might be because of that, is Ziggler gets eliminated in the first fall by Randy Orton. Sin Cara gets eliminated by messed up leg. Can't say it coming, so they didn't plan that anyway.
Jeff Hardy Fest.
The next elimination is Mason Ryan by Cody Rhodes. Now I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're just stacking the deck a little bit. But then the next elimination comes up and it's Kofi Kingston. Then the next elimination comes up and it's Sheamus. And once again, we're doing that shit where the one guy who is at the top of the card is the only one that's able to eliminate everybody. Now, Orton doesn't eliminate Rhodes and Barrett, which is good, and I'm very glad that those won instead of Randy Orton. But at the same time, three people on that team got eliminated, and they all had to be eliminated by Randy Orton. Kofi couldn't have gotten an elimination. Sheamus couldn't. Mason Ryan couldn't to make him look strong. It's got to be the one guy at the top has to eliminate everybody because he's the guy at the top, and we need to make him look strong. That bothered me a lot.
I think they were using Orton to make Barrett and Rhodes look strong. They weren't doing this to you know to basically elevate anybody else. And you know the fact is with Kingston, he's just jobber fodder until Evan Bourne returns. Because single-handedly they've destroyed the tag team division by the fact that Bourne chose to go and synthetically get high with truth. Uh, that's what's up. And basically, they've literally just are making Kingston pay for this. Um, but as for the rest of them, Ryan is too green anyway. So who's he really gonna? If he eliminates anyone, it doesn't really help make that guy credible. The fact that they had Swagger last so long and have Sheamus just destroy him helps set up a new feud for Sheamus and Swagger.
Yeah, and they seem to be
And
kind of going along with that with the match at SmackDown tonight. Yeah,
yeah, I totally loved their match on Raw as well. So I was quite happy with that. But they needed to keep Orton strong so that by beating him, it made the heels look, just as strong, which it worked. It gave Barrett a bit of an edge and helped elevate Cody Rhodes just an inch. To the point that they're actually now in contention for the world title. So I'm totally cool with that. I would have, rather would have preferred Orton being taken out first, so the match could have been a bit more of a crapshoot. But the way they went for it was totally fine. As long as they managed to book Barrett and book Rhodes strong, I was totally happy. They didn't need to book anybody else strong at all from their team.
the fact that Barrett and Rhodes ended up winning in the end kind of justified it a little bit to me. I still think it was sort of typical WWE for the top face to be the only one to eliminate anyone on the heel side, but then again, like I said, maybe they would have had Sin Cara eliminate Hunigo or something like that, and we just didn't get to see it because of that screw up. But I did like the end result, so let's see how they take it from here and actually build upon it, because that's the thing that matters the most.
Exactly. It's all about if they can keep the momentum going. Especially with Hunico, he looked like gold in that match because the fact that he managed to diversify himself from what he was before. When he was Sin Cara Negro, he literally had like this whole high flying move set, and now mostly he's gone to a sort of technical ground and pound move set. and it's it works for him. He's becoming a rather over heel, so I'm totally cool with his momentum going in it. I'm totally cool with how they've set up Rhodes and Barrett as well. So I've got no issue. I'm It's actually one of the better matches on the card.
One match with very little momentum was Big Show against Mark Henry, which I thought was slow and boring, and I just kind of waited until it ended. And there were two decent spots in it. I mean, it was hilarious seeing Big Show trying to do the Randy Savage elbow drop, but and the super kick too. I thought that was great. But other than that, I mean, I'm a fan of Big Show. I'm a fan of Mark Henry, but I didn't like that match at all.
It switched it up a bit for me. It switched up the perception of Show and Henry because everyone thought it was just going to be two lazy ass giants looking really clumsy in the ring. But instead, it got kind of fast paced with Show, and I was totally surprised. I thought he was going to land in his face or something, but he managed to get all this done and do that huge high risk move and totally left the crowd in awe. And the fact that he ended the match by injuring Henry, I loved it. I thought it was classic. It was a great setup for what they did on SmackDown this week. And I didn't have too much of a problem with it. It was pretty slow, but you're not really going to get anything hugely sort of like cruiserweight like or
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
um,
expecting them to start doing 450 splashes like Justin Gabriel. If an
imagine
elbow
Show
drop
doing a
is
450
huge,
splash. He would end up on his face,
um,
probably lifeless.
right after that, I think came the true highlight of the whole pay per view, and it's such an odd highlight too. The R Truth promo I thought was freaking hilarious.
Don't want me.
Just all the stuff about the pigeons and they don't talk, they just crap. Crap is crap. Tonight, crap's gonna get got. I mean, oh my god, I was laughing my ass off. I mean,
Gonna get God.
I think I actually worded it on the review of like how much marijuana is this guy smoking with Evan Bourne that,
You know what
and
I
turns out
think?
to be true.
Yeah, exactly. There's certain rumblings at the moment about turning him face, which is I think is just the biggest mistake that WWE can
I
make.
really don't want them to turn him face. I want them to keep this as long as possible because it's
The little
just
Jimmy shtick is brilliant. The way he acts as a heel is brilliant. I
oh,
think
his
if they
character
just
is fantastic right now.
yeah, yeah, totally. And he's given his career a whole new lease of life. If you look back at his old WWE days and when he was K Crush in TNA and Ron Killings in TNA, they were very bland. He wasn't like as over as he is now.
Mhm.
And the fact that he's got on this character and he's just made it into something so comical but yet so heelish, it just works. I can't see anyone better in the upper mid card as Truth. He could, go for a mid card title or hopefully get into the world title picture. He totally deserves it at the moment with this character. And as you said, his every time he cuts a promo, you just can't stop laughing your head off because you don't understand how the hell he puts these words together.
Right, he's the heel Santino at the moment.
Yeah, in a way, but he can actually work in the ring as well.
Right. We're gonna
You
touch
know,
a little bit on his suspension in the next part. What was the next match? Del Rio versus CM Punk. I was a little disappointed in it. I thought that they weren't really gonna have that great chemistry, and I think that that kind of showed. Uh, it wasn't really like a bad match or anything like that. I just kind of was expecting more out of those two, and like I said, best way for me to word it is I was just a little disappointed with it. I like the ending. I saw from a mile away that Anaconda Vice was going to be the end of the match, but other than that, I mean, I'll tell you one thing I didn't like. I didn't like the CM Punk flashing the crowd his ass. I don't know why that
I
couldn't have
think
happened in a Divas match.
Oh, don't worry, man. Just Punk was doing it for the ladies. If you look at the long list of women this guy has dated, it's just like, how the hell does that happen? Um, but he's the thing with this match. It was a bog standard CM Punk match for me. It was something where you knew he was going to get the job done, and he was going to be a good match between him and Delo, and it was a good match. It wasn't as great as Ziggler's match with Morrison,
Right.
because you didn't expect that kind of work rate um, coming out of like guys like Ziggler and Morrison. But with Punk and Del Rio, I think they were rather going through the motions. It was just like, let's get out of the way. They're probably going to have a bigger match on TLC anyway, and it just is what it was. It is. It did what it was supposed to do. It got Punko, even more over as the face of the company. But it also, I think, in a way as well, it was a bit too little, too late. Because when he was like uber hot, where after he won the belt of Money in the Bank and going into SummerSlam, and the fact that they literally took the belt away from him when he was so hot, they've kind of killed some of his momentum.
Definitely. They
So
tried to transition that to Del Rio, and it clearly didn't work. And then for some reason, they just went back to their standard old Cena stuff. And then, of course, people tuned out again because it was the same old, which they were preaching 2 weeks ahead of time. And
yeah, it's kind of distancing itself from what Punk's push was supposed to be about. Him trying to change the WWE, and it hasn't happened. We're supposed to see more wrestling and more great promos. We're supposed to see more undercard guys getting a shot and getting pushed. And now it is starting to happen a little bit, but it's not happening on the rate that we're supposed to see it happen, if that makes any sense.
well, now that we've got WrestleMania coming up very soon, they're going to be so swamped with figuring that out that they're not going to put any effort into the CM Punk stuff. And unless they give Punk the go ahead to do things the way that he wants to do, we're going to be seeing standard babyface champion CM Punk, and that's going to be it. And
Yeah,
I'm a little
that's
worried
something
about
we
that.
have to get away from, because we need to let Punk do what he does best, and that's cut a great promo. When he was in the Indies, he used to cut a promo and he could make you hate him, literally to the point where you just wanted to just choke the guy. Um, and when he's a babyface, he can cut a promo and he can make you want to kiss his ass. That's how great Punk is, and you literally have to let him sell the match. But the issue is with guys like Del Rio, he hasn't had much time to work as a main eventer. So he hasn't got that kind of chemistry to sell the match and to sell his character and get his character over at that kind of level. So I'm hoping that the feud ends before TLC and they just put someone new into the title picture, because it's going to end up just becoming rather bland rather quickly.
Then that leaves us with the final match of Survivor Series. Main event of Rock and John Cena against The Miz and R-Truth, otherwise known
Uh,
as the main event of The Rock comes out and is very entertaining, and then Cena gets his ass beaten for the rest of the match, and
that was
then
a
The
one
Rock
man
wins.
show. That was a one man show, that whole main event.
Mm-hmm. And I
It
thought
just
that when The Rock came out and he started out as good as he did, I was thinking to myself, okay, I was completely wrong. This is going to be a good match. And then as soon as Cena got into it, it floored itself and didn't return from that at all. Now I'm glad
well,
that they
this
didn't have Miz and Truth completely dominated by both of them. So you clearly needed to have Cena between the two of them be the guy who's taking the fall. But it still just became. I mean, the beginning of the match, Rock comes out, starts kicking ass. Everybody starts chanting, "You still got it." Cena comes in, tries to show him up, does the same stuff again, which everybody criticizes him for. And naturally, Madison Square Garden boos him and says the whole you can't wrestle, and
Yeah, he was playing the whole weak link of the team thing. If you noticed, he was getting beat down a lot more than when the Rock did. Really, the Rock was playing Super Cena
right.
for most of the match. Um, but the problem was the damage was already done going into that match. They did nothing to build up Miz and Truth prior to Survivor Series and made it a focal point of the Rock versus Cena. They were literally using it as a preview to their WrestleMania match, and it didn't even do that. It just made you. I just sat there and I thought, oh god, when is this going to end? When is The Rock just going to pin the guy? And then when it happened, I was like, just relieved the show was over.
Yeah. Well, then they ended up wasting a bunch of time by Rock inviting Cena back into the ring, and then doing the cheer off, and then
It
the rock bottom, and then
it was very ego orientated. It just seemed to me like, okay, the guy's filling his ego. There was no sort of surprise, no element of surprise out of the whole situation. And again, I believe that the pay per view, and I've stated this before, and I'm just going to state it again, it was just rather lazily booked. You know, people on the booking committee just thought, okay, let's just throw a couple of matches together and just have it focused around The Rock. They could have inserted any generic tag team into that match, and it would have gone the same way.
Tyler Rex and Kurt Hawkins.
Yep, same way. It would have just gone the same way because the build for that match was just lackluster at best. They might as well just have had promos of The Rock coming back to wrestle with a tag match for a mystery partner, and it still would have sold.
They
There was
probably could have
nothing.
had him come out and cut a promo. I mean, they did for the beginning of it, but they probably could have just done that, and people would have
It could have
still.
been a Divas title match wearing a skirt. They still would have sold tickets because it's The Rock. There's nothing really. They're just there because they want to see him back in the ring again.
Right.
It's a nostalgia moment. It's the same, when people wanted to see Hogan, bring back the old red and yellow for the WWE. In turn, eventually it's going to get old. He'll keep coming
Hopefully,
back and doing something new, and it'll just get old.
hopefully not right before WrestleMania if WWE's planning on that.
No, it's going to end up selling tickets. It's going to end up putting butts on seats. But I'm hoping after WrestleMania 28 he just hangs it up for good because I just don't really want to see him again after that because I've literally had my fill of The Rock, especially after Survivor Series. Is really my stock in The Rock has just gone down the toilet.
Well, that's Survivor Series, and we're going to go into the next part here and talk a little bit about R-Truth's suspension and a couple other problems that a couple people are having. So stay tuned for part two.